He is Jalen Rose. I'm David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do? We get the people. What a great game last night. What a great NBA Finals series we have. The greatest shooter of all time, Wardell Stephen Curry, did not hit a single three. He was 0 for 9, yet the Warriors still won. Here is what Wardell had to say about the weird performance.
I mean, of course, it bothers me as a shooter. You want to impact the game that way, but and the fact that everybody stepped up, Wiggs, JP, Clay hit some big shots. Draymond found his life and his spirit and the way he impacts the game. We could withstand going 9 for 40 as a team and me 0 for 9 and still come away with the win.
You see the numbers there. The winner of Game 5 is in the driver's seat. That is the Warriors. But, Jalen, it wasn't Steph Curry that got them there. It was Andrew Wiggins. What do you think about Wiggs?
Well, his activity was key. And when you're playing against the Golden State Warriors and they're in their half-court offense, they're going to be looking to get the ball to Steph Curry, and rightfully so, off of pick-and-roll actions, off of dribble handoff actions, off of down screen actions. But when you turn the ball over, that now allows players like Wiggins to get out in transition to get layups and dunks. Gary Payton II to get going. And those players get a level of confidence playing in front of their home fans that they now are aggressively looking for shots like Wiggins started to do. How about this, Jacoby? This is the only time this year that Wiggins has led the team in points and rebounds in the game.
It's wild.
That's the only time.
In the NBA
That's
Finals.
the only time. And Steve Kerr used him as a Swiss Army knife because he basically played him as a small ball 4 a lot during his substitution patterns. So now when you're helping towards Steph or helping off play, Wiggins is the slasher, not necessarily Otto Porter, not necessarily Draymond Green. Why? He's more athletic and a terrific finisher at the basket. And defensively, he did a terrific job of fighting over screens, helping the helper, and giving multiple efforts on whoever he was guarding. He was terrific in that game. And like I always tell you, role players are gonna play better in front of their home fans.
Yep.
Wiggins, Draymond was aggressive at the beginning of the game, even offensively scored a couple of buckets to start the game. Gary Payton II. And I told you, Poole don't just make baskets. They're loud. And it's only right, it seems, at the end of a quarter, again, he makes a huge three-point shot that became the catalyst to a 10-0 run to start the fourth quarter.
So, Jalen, you did mention the role players playing better at home, and when the Celtics started the game, they made a concerted effort after Steph had 43. They're like, we're not going to let you beat us. We're going to make other people beat us, and that's exactly what happened. But what do you think about the way they defended Steph Curry and how he could never find his shot even when he got open?
So it's always great, D, when the offensive player misses the shot. It's always great, D, when they miss. So now, what are we doing to make Steph Curry miss? Contesting, making him work, not allowing him to be comfortable, making him compete defensively, but also he just missed some shots that he normally makes.
Sure did.
And he had a consecutive games made streak of three-pointers for a reason, because he's the greatest three-point shooter that the game has seen. So that was an anomaly after 233 games that he didn't make a shot. It's not something historic that the Boston Celtics decided to do defensively. They've done what they've consistently been able to do. They're going to drop coverage with their big, try to take away the initial walk up or dribble up three, and force Steph to play mid-range, not allow him to turn the corner and spray it out to his shooters. So I want to give the Celtics credit, but he missed a lot of shots that he normally makes.
One of the key points of the game was this Andrew Wiggins dunk on Derek White. And I just want to point out one thing that really just makes this worse. It's one thing to get dunked on. He wasn't really dunked on. He was dunked around. But after Wiggins made the basket, the ball hits him in the face. That just makes it worse. You know what I mean? The ball just hits Derek White right in the face on this one. It really just the microcosm of how this night went. Look at this right here. Oh, that's bad.
Well, it could have got worse. Well, it could have got worse if it hit that nose in the wrong spot and make your eyes start to water. You know what I mean? Then it's a lot worse when you standing there like this, like you just got punched in the nose. But again, that's about the aggressiveness of Wiggins, though. And as a number one pick, Jacoby, they don't draft you to be a defensive stopper. You don't see nobody that get drafted number one. It's like when you get drafted number one, it's like you got to score 20. Like, you got to get buckets and then do other things. And so he had to continue to reinvent himself. I remember the years it was like rigging for Wiggins. And growing up, he was known as Maple Jordan because he's from Canada. And so he always had expectations to be that dude. And then when he got to Minnesota, the same expectations were there. And they were lofty. But that's what happens when you move teams, you move opportunities on the roster to make an impact. So he goes from being the most impactful player in a situation to watching Karl Anthony Towns ascend and then watching them add Jimmy Butler. So now that got him used to going to a team like the Warriors where the ball has energy. You move, you cut, you play D, you play a role, you get vaccinated. You start the All-Star game, now you have a chance to win your first championship if you're Andrew Wiggins.
And one of the things we always key on is how many turnovers do the Celtics have? And it was Smart and Brown and Tatum that I believe they totaled for 13 turnovers as a trio. And a lot of it happened in the fourth quarter after the Celtics had a good third quarter, got a little squirrely at the end with that pool shot. But Jalen, what do you think about the turnovers and this sort of like fourth quarter inefficiency from the Boston Stars?
It wasn't really just the fourth quarter for the Celtics being poor offensively. That was every quarter except the third. Like, they were bad in the first half. They missed their first 12 three-pointers. 12. They missed their first 12 three-point shots. And for a while, Jason Tatum was the only one that could seem like he was finding a basket. Marcus Smart ended up working himself into the game. You talked about Jaylen Brown's high turnovers. But again, if you're going to win on the road in the NBA Finals, and I know this is asking a lot, it ain't too many people that's going to play in the NBA Finals that's going to score 25, that's going to score 30. But if the Celtics are going to win, that's what they're going to need from Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And then they're going to need more people. You saw Jay-Z and Baby Blue at the game. They're going to need more people. That's Smart. That's Al Horford. That's Time Lord. That's Grant Williams. That's Derek White. It's going to take a collection of effort of multiple people to drive the narrative if they're going to win. But it starts with your best players. And you know what's defeating, Jacoby? When you miss a layup or you miss a close shot towards the basket. Because what ends up happening, there had to be a reason. Like, I missed a layup. Like, ref,
foul.
Had to be a reason.
Yeah.
There had to be a reason. Like, I don't miss these. You know, this is a 3-foot, 5-foot shot. Tatum looking at the ref. Jaylen Brown looking at the ref. One time, Marcus Smart tried to flop and get a charge against Klay Thompson. It could have been a bang-bang call. But then when you fall down, you give Klay an uncontested three. And Klay was like, whew, this is what I needed. An uncontested shot, and those are the type of plays that get a guy like him going.
Yep, and you saw how excited Klay was after he missed that shot. And Jalen, like, when you have Kevon Looney in foul trouble, you have just Draymond Green as sort of like the lone big on the floor for the Warriors, you would expect a lot more from Horford and Williams. Why weren't they able to get going and contribute the way they have in the past?
I mentioned Al Horford had 26 points in game one. He had 30 points combined in all of the rest of the games. Robert Williams III had a major impact in a previous game. He should be flirting with double-doubles and a couple of blocks. That didn't happen yesterday. Grant Williams had 27 points in a closeout game versus the Bucks.
Yep.
I know for a fact he don't have 27 total points in 5 games through this series. And so those guys have to create a level of balance and autonomy up front. In particular, Al Horford with his shot making and ability to spread the floor. He did it in the third quarter, made a big three, made a couple of big plays in that quarter. But they're gonna need those guys to be more consistent if they're gonna extend this series in Game 6.
Now, Jalen, Klay Thompson has not been the old Klay, but he's been enough Klay to get them wins. And one thing I love about Klay Thompson is his approach to not just basketball, but to life. So we want to get inside of his head. And he was asked a question that got the best response from him at the press conference. Let's listen to Klay Thompson just philosophically address his relationship with the Bay.
You know, the Bay, it doesn't matter what time of the year it is, the Bay, you know, it can be cold, but when it's one of those days where it's in the low 60s and the sun is shining, I make it a point to jump in the ocean. I just think the ocean has healing properties that a pool might not have, or a cold tub, and just to be immersed in nature like that, it really makes me happy, and just your whole body feels so great when you get out of that cold water, and it just feel like, honestly, you just feel a little closer to God when you look up at the beautiful skies, and you just in the ocean. Like I'm an Aquarius, so I've always loved the water my whole life, and it really is my happy place besides the hardwood.
Klay Thompson has life figured out. Like, he's got life figured out, Jalen Anthony Rose. If you had to sort of 2 words about this sound, what would they be?
You know, the Bay.
Well, a couple of
It
things.
doesn't matter what time of the year it is, the Bay, you know, it can be cold, but
He's talking about the ocean. He's talking about being immersed. He's talking about being closer to God. You know what all of those things remind me? That this is a failed test.
Fail test.
That this is a failed test.
You know what I
This
just
is a
realized,
failed
Jay?
test.
We've been doing this segment so long, they don't even test anymore. So good for Klay Thompson. You know, good for Klay Thompson. I think he's enjoying all of the natural elements that California and the Northern California Bay Area have to offer. You know what I mean? Good for Klay.
Absolutely. He might as well start touring with the Grateful Dead and Bill Walton if he wins this championship in a couple of days. It's only right. We were doing the show outside, and all I can say is I smelled the Bay. I smelled the legality of the Bay when we were outside.
I understood everything he was saying, though. There is something healing and invigorating, gets the blood flowing about a nice cool dip in the ocean. Big shout to Klay Thompson. Jalen, Draymond Green, whether it's a win or a loss, whether he scores 18 points or 4 points, he's always a topic of discussion, and he had impact on this game, especially early. We'll discuss him and much more right after this. You're watching Jalen and Jacoby.